The Montreal Canadiens have given themselves a gift. And it's none other than Elliotte Friedman that has given us the context as to why that is. If you are excited for the future of the Montreal Canadiens, then stay tuned to this video commentary because Friedman's 32 thoughts from 2 nights ago dives into the biggest draft steal the Montreal Canadiens have acquired recently. Now, we're going to leave a link in the description to 32 thoughts, goaltender interference, 2 plays, 2 outcomes. There are conversations to have about the stuff that Friedman writes about. In fact, there are 32 thoughts, in fact. So, it's pretty self-explanatory there. But let's scroll down over into the 20s and talk about the Montreal Canadiens, who are mentioned on thought number 24. Speaking about Montreal, a few executives who saw Alexander Zharovsky recently said the Canadiens got away with grand larceny, picking him 34th overall in last year's draft. Apparently, that selection in that spot is a discussion point in scouting circles. Now, that is absolutely something that we love to see. Montreal Canadiens fans are feasting right here with the addition of Alexander Zharovsky, a guy who was taken in the 34th overall spot, despite the fact that the Montreal Canadiens might have actually had him ranked higher. You see, in all the scouting videos that we made about this dude, we mentioned how the Montreal Canadiens did not actually have a selection in the first round. They had 2 back-to-back picks, but then they traded both of them over to the Islanders for Noah Dobson. The Isles selected Victor Eklund and Kashawn Aitchison with those picks, and I'm gonna be real, both of those guys are looking pretty good. However, thoughts have come into the forefront of Canadiens drafting discourse surrounding Alexander Zharovsky, and word around the block is the Habs actually had this guy ranked so highly that, hypothetically, if the Canadiens kept their 16th or 17th overall picks, they honestly might have taken him in that spot anyway. So, the idea that Geravski was actually available at 34 and the Canadiens were able to use those 2 firsts and trade them away for Noah Dobson spells the ultimate victory for the Habs. No? With that said, let's refer back over to what Elliotte Friedman was talking about. The fact that Geravski went 34th overall and is playing like an absolute maniac this season needs to be addressed. 42 points in 59 KHL games for Salavat Yuleyev Ufa, nearing a record for junior production in the KHL. Now, let's be clear here, the record was set by Kirill Kaprizov a few moons ago, but after the Kaprizov situation from a decade ago, we had Ivan Demidov, who went out there and overtook that record. Sure, Kaprizov had a higher points per game number, but Demidov had more raw points, and that's why his 49 points in 65 games played was so notable. Now, for Alexander Zharovsky, he actually tied the amount of points that Kaprizov had with 42 on the year. But you have to remember the fact that Zharovsky did all of this at 18. Demidov and Kaprizov's seasons were at age 19. Sure, you can say that for Demidov, this 49 points in 65 games campaign, that was his draft plus 1 year. He was 19, but the reason for that is because Demidov has a late birthday. He's December 10, 2005. Alexander Zharovsky is February 2007, an early birthday in the year. So, in theory, Zharovsky, he'll have another year to go out there and best Kaprizov and or Demidov in their overall junior production rates. Also, you gotta remember, Kirill Kaprizov, Dala Bill Kirill, he was drafted in 2015. So, his record-setting season of 42 points for junior production was his draft plus 2. This puts Zharovsky in the exact same boat. Now, it's also easy to infer conclusions here, and I'm not going to go out there and say that Alexander Zharovsky is necessarily the next Kirill Kaprizov, the next 100-point Russian phenom, a guy who probably should have gotten 100 points multiple times in the NHL but has been slowed down due to multiple injuries. But I will say that Alexander Zharovsky is providing tremendous value for a guy taken in the second round just 1 year after getting drafted. Who knows? For Salavat Yuley of Ufa, this guy could go out there and produce more points than Kaprizov did at 19 years old, and if he gets a little luckier and he plays a few more games, there is a chance he goes out there and produces even more than Ivan Demidov. Zharovsky has 1 more year to get that going. That is, of course, assuming he doesn't end up just joining the Montreal Canadiens earlier, but then again, his contract in the KHL is listed till 2026-2027. So, for Elliotte Friedman's sake, going out there and talking about how all of these NHL GMs are really paying attention nowadays, it does bode well for what the Canadiens are building in their system here. Let's go out there and read some tweets from various folks on social media. Mike Vini went out there and posted the same thought by Elliotte Friedman. Lecerque goes out there and says that Hage and Zharovsky are not going anywhere. The Montreal Canadiens targeted those guys in the draft, and they've only gotten better as prospects. They need to clean the cupboard of their lesser projects that have contracts expiring and those on or close to the NHL roster that do not have a clear path. Meanwhile, another reply says, I could see Zharovsky being a trade piece in order to get a player of impact. Whether that may be a 2C or a physical right-handed D, you have to give up something to get anything decent in return. You have to evaluate him for more than just 6 games. Bergevin and co thought they evaluated Sergachev, and if I remember correctly, he played like 4 games with Montreal. So, we will see whether or not Zharovsky is a guy that is long-term Canadiens material. Mike Vini is even saying here, hey, we've seen his name come up in trade proposals, but obviously it would be nice for the Canadiens to see what he is about and see what his entire profile is like at the NHL level before making any drastic decisions. For what it's worth, though, Byron Bader went out there and compared Alexander Zharovsky to another very notable Russian scorer who made a living in the National Hockey League doing some pretty good things. Alexei Yashin, out of the Ottawa Senators, a guy who finished off his NHL career with 850 games played, 337 goals, and 444 assists. Alexei Yashin was a superstar producer, and the fact that Byron Bader's model says that Zharovsky is on a similar kind of path, I'd say that's probably pretty good. Now, again, we're not guaranteeing anything. We are not saying Geravski is the next Kaprizov. We are not saying he is the next Alexei Yashin. We are just saying the numbers, the profile, the statistics, they kind of fit here. And with that said, Elliotte Friedman's assessment on Montreal having a steal or 2 of a draft pick, I'd say it's pretty accurate. With that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Alexander Zharovsky story here? And Elliotte Friedman given a pretty big spotlight to these drafting decisions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.